So I really like that we have cups of tea because
Yeah.
I've been meaning to do that like every time that I've had a session.
Oh, and
we haven't done it in an interview yet. Yeah.
No, you've got to have cups
You've got to have cups of tea.
And it's got to be tea and not coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
I think
It's more
better.
English. Sitting down, a nice conversation.
Yeah. It suits your personality.
Yeah, I like to think
this
so.
kind of tea. You know, and even with me having a cup of tea, because I wouldn't usually have a cup of tea, but I felt like I should have a cup of tea.
Yeah, because you're here. It's the wallpaper, let's face it. Welcome to Paisley Presents. My name is Paisley and I'm joined today by my very good friend Scott Welsh, who is a writer, a poet, an actor. He's doing his PhD at the moment and he has a very, shall we say, varied and at times volatile kind of life and past, but has sort of soldiered on through it all and is here today to join me to talk about his life and art, basically. Yeah, that's it. So I guess first we should talk about how we met.
Oh, sure, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we both met through a film that we both did called
Angus,
The Vaults.
Yeah.
That's right,
Yeah.
Angus Ward.
Angus Ward, yes.
Yeah. So how did you find out about that?
They just, you know, I'm on one of those Star Now things, and
Me too, yeah.
And they just contacted me through that, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And then asked me to do it, and I said yes.
Yeah, cool.
You know,
And they told me.
I always like to play a drug dealer.
yeah, right. Okay, yeah, you had a lot of fun with that role, didn't you?
I did. I loved it. You know.
Yeah.
But I love all kinds of. I love getting into a character, any kind of character really, but particularly that kind of dark, gritty.
Yeah, me too.
Thing, you know, it really. It tickles my fancy. I like it.
There's a beautiful quote of Hunter S. Thompson's, which I'm sure you know, where he says, "You don't know yourself until you've made a beast of yourself."
Right.
And I think it's those roles that we really like you and I really revel in.
Yeah.
To play that kind of off-kilter.
Offhand, I didn't know that Hunter S. Thompson. I've read.
What
was his No, the other one about the bikies.
Oh yeah, Hell's Angels,
which is a great book.
Is it? Yeah, right.
Brilliant. Yeah.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
And very, you know, I mean it rang bells for me a lot. You know, because of my varied history, which we're going to get onto eventually, I suppose.
Yeah, talk about it. Yeah, that's cool. That's really So what in terms of your writing, what things do you write?
Well, I suppose, you know, like I've been writing very early in the morning or late at night, you know, when everyone else is asleep.
Yeah, me too.
Since I was about 11.
Wow, wow.
And I remember, you know, even as a school student and in those teenage years when I was failing at school, but still, you know, kind of not being able to sleep, you know, for writing a diary or whatever, you know. And then I suppose when I started writing poetry at some point. A lot.
Do you remember where? Like, was it kind of around being a teenager? Was it that kind of therapy or?
Yeah. I mean, a really big thing that just kind of cropped into my mind that I haven't thought about for over 20 years, Sean.
Yeah, awesome.
Is there was this girl at school who I used to always argue with in English literature. Like we had that kind of, you know, debate relationship, and it was like we hated each other.
Yeah. But secretly loved one another.
Then I started to get a strange fascination with her.
Oh, interesting.
And so she became my muse.
Yeah.
And she was possibly the first one of those that I had, which there were many more after that.
Yeah,
you know, men and women and all kinds of. Because you know that relationship of
something that
gazing at someone, you know, just gazing at someone, and absorbing every element of them. And then anyway, at the very end of year 12, after it was all done and dusted, I found out her address. Listen, this is scary.
It's turning into an 80s film.
and I knocked on her door.
Did you go with a boombox?
No, well I just knocked on her door and I had this big pile of handwritten poetry, like, you know, a massive folder. And I gave it to her. I said, I just wanted to give this to you, just so that you knew that.
What did she say?
Thank you.
Just a bit like, but it wasn't necessarily about her. It was a mixture of different things, or
no, it was all of it.
Wow! Oh my god, that's amazing.
But
God, she must. What if she still has them now?
So do I. I mean, I don't think it was very good poetry. That's the
yeah, right.
You know,
it was tragic, kind of teenage angst. Kind of,
yeah, or even worse than that.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Kind of
Even
just
worse.
badly, just dribble. Just syrupy crap.
Yeah.
Which, but I mean, I think that about a lot of phases of my writing, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll go just to finish the story.
Yeah, do yeah. Sorry.
So then when I was 19, I wrote a children's play.
Wow.
With a friend and I were going to start a children's theatre company, and then this opportunity arose where it could be performed at some festival thing in Geelong.
Yeah.
And so we did that, and then we did another children's play, and then I met my daughter's mother through that pursuit.
Wow. Yeah.
And I eventually
had children. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's 17 now, nearly 18.
Jeez.
She'll be 18.
Yeah, right. Does that make you feel old?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't want to like you.
It kind of does, but it's, you know, what I love about having Electra is that I hope she doesn't mind me saying her name.
Yeah.
But because she's very, you know, she's very
Electra is her name. That's a cool name.
But what I like about that is it's like having a kindred spirit. It's like that thing where who is it that says, I think it's Eddie Murphy or someone says it, you know, men when they get to it, you know, once they have children you can't, it's like you know, screw the word, I'll make my own children.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
It's Jerry Seinfeld. Screw the word, I'll make my own human beings.
Yeah.
It's Jerry Seinfeld, actually.
Yeah. You think that things will be alright now? Like you'll better the world with your child?
It's just like you've got a friend who is kind of like you, and you know, and
you can console him.
Yeah. And you don't feel so completely
kind of alone.
Yeah, isolated. You know,
yeah.
Which is you know, I suppose a sensation that I've had for my entire life.
You struggle with that a lot.
Yeah. The crowd seems a long way away.
Yeah, I'm the same, but it's interesting that I find people who have that really kind of find each other somehow. You know, it's interesting that we've met because exactly what you just said is exactly like how I feel and how I've always felt. I remember saying to my mum about sort of 4 or 5 years ago, and it was really hard because I'd never opened up to my mum, never told my mum anything. We have no kind of real relationship. And one day she just sat me down, we were having tea, and she was very assertive with me, and I was just like, I just feel like I'm running in like a long distance running race, and I'm so far behind, and I'm never going to catch up. Like in terms of like my life and the world and everyone, like I feel that same thing. Like I'm just so far away, and I'm constantly like, you know, like, and I've even had dreams that have like depicted it in a literal sense.
Maybe it's time to give up.
Don't say that.
Don't worry about the race. You know,
True.
Play marbles or something.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I thought you meant just kill
in the middle of the oval.
Well,
I really strongly identify with what you're talking about, and I feel like in a way I've failed in every conventional sense possible.
Yeah, right. But spectacularly, you know.
Yeah,
it's made you so much who you are. As well.
Exactly, but I feel successful inside too.
Yeah, of course.
And I feel like I don't feel. I don't know. I don't have any regrets at all.
No,
you know,
and that's amazing. I think, like for anyone, even let alone someone who's had sort of like your life. Like I think that's amazing for anyone to not have any regrets. Do you think that's a thing that people should have, like no regrets, or in life?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think that people. One thing that I think is that people should dream without restriction.
Yeah, right. That's
dream without restriction. Just do whatever. Yeah. Do whatever you want, no matter how crazy or outrageous. You know. Yeah, I love those talent shows like the X Factor and stuff. And there's people that get on there who just clearly can't sing or whatever. Or according to my mind, but I think it's great that they've done it.
I agree. It takes so much guts.
So anyway, back to the story.
Yeah, no, go back.
So then I met my daughter's mother, and I'd been overseas in between that. I went overseas with my grandmother, and my cousins, which was at the time it was one of those things like, I don't know, when you're young and you go overseas, I kind of I kind of was dragged along. But now when I reflect on it, you know, having seen like the whole of Europe and Italy and all those places, you know, and London, we lived in an apartment in London for a few months, and you need to have seen that.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait to do this.
At the time, and my daughter just recently was overseas too, and she kind of apparently, you know, spent a lot of time inside. But I can remember thinking that, you know, oh, it's taking 6 months out of my life, and what about my friends, and what about this and that. But
the things you worry
but
about.
now, now I kind of think, wow,
it's amazing.
Why didn't I embrace it even more?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Have you been overseas since?
Yeah, well, now I've been overseas. I gave a paper at a conference in Bangkok.
Oh, wow.
Which was fantastic, yeah. And
that's amazing.
my mum had a facelift, came over and had a facelift at the same time.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Which was
hilarious.
hilarious.
It's like killing two birds with one stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so you know, I went on motorbike taxis to the conference and all that kind of stuff, which was brilliant fun. And I went to New Zealand, I think Auckland year before last or something.
Yeah. Right.
For another paper at a conference, you know.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
But back to the story.
Yeah. No, go. That's good.
And then so I was in a relationship with my daughter's mother, and I started to I got fully into my uni degree. I had to do something because she was pregnant. So I was like, I wasn't going to work.
No, yeah, right.
I thought, I'll go back and finish that arts degree. I started ages ago. And then you know, I did honours in philosophy, and I think that kind of pricked my desire to write again.
Yeah, right.
And in between times, I did a few amateur plays, you know, as an actor.
Yeah.
And then so I started to formulate a theory for writing plays, which I called real fiction.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it was the idea. It was just in the back of this pub at the National Hotel in Geelong.
Oh yeah, wow.
And so the Nash, you know, I was a notorious poet, because I in between time too, which I don't know when this happened, but I wrote all these little self-published books that I'd sell at poetry readings for $5 a piece, you know.
What a good idea. Almost like zine before its time, almost, or
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Right.
One of them was called "How Many Roads: A Story of the Bob Dylan Theme Team," which is about my
awesome.
kind of late teenage basketball team.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I like that juxtaposition of something really, you know, conventional with something really artistic.
And their road to the premiership.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then I in between, in that part of my existence, I suppose, I got into, and also I think because, you know, I was being a lousy father too, I started to be out at the pubs all the time, you know, at poetry readings.
Yeah, right.
And selling my books and drinking and, you know.
So just quickly, how old were you when you had her?
23.
23, my age.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Crazy.
So quite young.
Yeah.
But when it really talking about the path of my life, she's actually been a real anchor.
Yeah, right.
Like
that sort of sense of responsibility or something.
Yeah, and like and especially when we get down the track when it got really dark. You know, she was the one thing that kind of woke me up, I suppose.
Yeah.
In the end,
a bit of a reason to keep living and keep fighting it, and kind of
and so then I started to write plays. With my friend Mel Gibson, who's still a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, right.
She's got a good name.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
But it's Mel.
Mel, yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
The female Mel Gibson, not to be confused with the actor Mel Gibson.
And you know, we kind of got mini famous in Geelong doing this weird stuff, and we had a play eventually called "There's a Naked Man in My Lounge Room" that went to the Sydney. It went to the Melbourne Fringe, and you know, and was quite well received, and we got funding from the City of Greater Geelong, and it was like an exploration into mental illness and the family, you know.
Which at the time would have been like pretty risque, wouldn't it? Then I mean, even now people would probably be quite surprised by it. But then I imagine that would have been pretty ahead of its time in a way. Like,
yeah, it was kind of before a lot of before a lot of the stuff. It was before Beyond Blue. Even,
yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
And you know, and I was talking about a lot of things, but it was mostly inspired actually by my university study and where my supervisor was leading me at the time. But it was like at that time, for some reason, even though I had the most unconventional and brilliant supervisor, his name is Ron Gilbert. I hope he doesn't mind.
There you go.
And he kind of encouraged me to be creative, but I kind of couldn't do it within the confines at that time of the university. And so that play was like a product of the research.
Yeah.
My master's research, for which I had a scholarship. And you know, my work as an actor and a writer, I suppose.
Kind of fit in all the boxes.
Ticked all the boxes. And then, and this relates to the story. So, and I called this thing real fiction. The whole kind of, so it was all about speech rhythms and
almost like quite do you know the work of Tracy Letts? Who wrote August Osage County is a good example.
Okay, yes.
There was a film recently, and it was a play, but obviously before it was a film. And it kind of is the thing where a lot of it's like based on his own life, or like his own life experiences. So he calls it like finding the poetry within everyday life. So it's similar to that. Like,
and I think I have come across that actually. In my recent research.
Because I'm the same. Like I haven't written a play for a while, but I like to think that the stuff I write is that kind of thing where you're taking things that are inspired from your own life, but still have that real theatrical quality. Yeah,
it's like I mean, the way I think of it now, which I've thought of, you know, I've worried over this notion for ages. Is that it's about the social interaction. It's about the encounter with the other person. And then that's imagined in a theatrical context. But it's like they're both the same. They should mirror each other if it's done perfectly, you know. That's cool. So anyhow, there's a naked man in my lounge room, and that
was title.
And it was quite, it was quite successful in a kind of fringe theatre-y way. And you know, we made money and all that kind of stuff, which was kind of a bit unheard of.
I was gonna say that's pretty awesome.
But you know, I'm a very, you know, at that time particularly, you know, I was a very difficult person to be around, and you know, my relationship had finished. That kind of died as a result of all this stuff.
How so? Like, what about? Do you think what made you difficult to be around?
Well, you mean what made me difficult to be around?
Yeah, personally.
I would drinking, and you know, I was very, you know, at that,
self-destructive.
Yes, and you know, I was probably, I don't know that I was smoking a lot of dope at that time. I don't think I was because I think that the play was too important to me. But having said that, I was obsessed. Right? And I'm still the same now.
It mattered more to you than the relationship.
It mattered more to me than life.
You
know, and it mattered more to me than any of the people that were involved. Or anything like that.
Which can come across as a little bit, like kind of inappropriate, or that you were disrespecting them or whatever. Did they?
Well, people don't enjoy me.
I don't know why.
Yelled at,
it's weird. Why don't they respect that the art is higher? I don't know why. It's really annoying.
Well, I think that it's weird because it is for everyone, but everyone has different levels of, you know, different places where they draw the line.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Yeah, that's true.
And I don't have a line.
Yeah, some people don't have a line.
And so and that's what we're about to, you know, because once you hear what happened after that. And then I wrote a play called Barcode 30 ! 7 307.
Right.
And if you think about
very
the
specific.
30, so it's 3 0 1 1 7, and it spells out bully boy.
Oh right, okay.
And that was based on, you know, I mean, I don't want to go into too much.
No, go.
I don't want to say too much about exactly You know, I don't want to be too precise about
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but it was very personal to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Very, very personal to me.
Was it
And
about you as a bully, or was it about
No.
your experiences being bullied?
Oh, no, well, it wasn't about bullying, it was about domestic violence.
Oh, okay, right,
And,
yeah.
and so there was a man who called a woman bully boy.
Yeah, right.
And so I wrote this this dialogue, and then I wrote this monologue about a child remembering their experiences.
Wow.
And I had to conceal it all. Right?
Yeah.
I had to conceal it all. So the child,
Job
the
of a
voice,
writer.
the voice was a girl.
Yeah, right.
And I started to look at all these different girls that were performing in my plays, like naked men and stuff like that, and imagine their voice, insert their voice into this experience that I was describing, which was very personal to me. Right? And then I started to meet because I was also using drugs and getting into that world.
Yeah.
I started to meet some pretty ugly kind of characters, people who'd done time in jail and stuff like that. Yeah, and then I started to get obsessed with their voice.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And I was like, wow, really,
man?
Yeah. Maybe like, oh yeah, well I've done a bit of time inside,
Yeah. And they're so matter of fact, aren't they? They've got that incredible stare, that kind of, I don't know, is there something in the eyes and something?
Yeah, I'm happy to help you out with your play and that.
Yeah. Just don't fucking wrong me.
Well, and then, it was like that.
I think that's part of what makes you such a good actor as well. Like, because I feel like I have just so many people inside me, screaming to get out. Like, I'm often told by my friends that I'm potentially either 80 or 8, years old, like I'm a child, but I'm like also this really old man at heart, and I feel like I can kind of be anywhere in between, and I've played girls on stage and stuff like that. Do you feel that way, where you can kind of have all these people inside you, or so much inside you?
Yes, and it's really interesting what you're saying, because, I think that, like, you need to explore this kind of stuff without any boundaries.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And it's funny because I recently for the first time was naked on stage, which I wasn't comfortable with and I don't like.
Yeah.
But
did you feel justified in the context of it?
Yeah, I did, and I felt like it had to happen.
Yeah, right.
That was the worst. But at first, I kind of said no.
Yeah.
So I let, and to me, that's ego.
Yeah, definitely.
Like so we were all in this group, and it was in a Lloyd Jones play.
Okay, wow.
Lloyd Jones piece, which they're kind of there's no script and no.
Yeah.
We all just get together.
Very free form.
And so it was like then then they said naked, and so everyone started to take off their clothes, and I went, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. I'm a traditionalist.
And then a few other people also said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I started to look at what Lloyd started to do.
Yeah.
And it was like, to me, it seemed like sitting there watching the nudity happen after everything else that had happened. So the whole process of the play was about this kind of uncovering. Uncovering.
Yeah.
And then all the performers become naked.
Yeah, right, okay.
Except there was a few that didn't.
Yeah.
And that seemed really weird.
Yeah, okay. Because then it becomes a bit sort of tokenistic or not.
Well, yeah, and it's like it wrecked.
Yeah.
It wrecked both. It wrecked both the nudity and the non-nudity, because it was like people started to go, how come he's not nude?
Yeah, exactly.
And is he still and so we kind of sat out the nude bit, and then it re-entered, and in the end, by the third night of sitting there watching, I said to Lloyd, can I go naked?
Yeah, right.
So,
Hey.
There you go.
We're recording an interview.
That's
That's alright. That's fine. That's fine. I won't cut it out. It's real. It's real life. That happened in my laundry. Just getting back to that.
Does he know how to make coffee?
Do you know how to make coffee, Nico?
I made before.
Could you make Scott a coffee?
You want a coffee?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah.
Because there was only tea, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. There was only tea. I only offered tea.
Well,
I'm
there
terrible.
was only there was only the resources to make it.
Yes,
There was only the knowledge.
Yeah,
to
the
make
knowledge.
it. We hadn't evolved that far.
That's right. Yeah.
Now someone else walks into the land.
Yeah.
You know, we've evolved.
That's right. Yeah.
Go.
So you felt being nude in that particular context was the natural progression of things. Did everyone then end up?
It was like it had to happen to me, right?
Yeah.
No, not everyone did, you know, and
No.
that's okay too. But
Yeah.
I mean, and he kind of, we did it for an exploration season at La Mama,
Yeah.
and then he altered it by the time it came to a lengthier season,
Yeah.
so that it was less, so that it relied less on the nudity.
Yeah.
But still had it.
Yeah.
And so then in the second season I appeared again nude, but some nights I didn't, right? So I did some nights and I did other nights.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think
Was that down to your comfort or was it?
well, it was kind of down to requirements, right? In terms of the cast. It wasn't the same as the year before, if you know what I was like.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was sitting in the audience when I didn't do nudity and thinking, oh shit, someone needs to be nude there.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, oh, it doesn't matter whether I'm nude or not.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I sometimes did it anyhow.
Yeah.
That's even weirder.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, oh, fuck it. I'll just get my kid up.
So why did you?
Yeah,
so the
yeah.
first time you did it because you absolutely had to. Then why did you do it the second time?
Yeah. Did you enjoy it though? Was it liberating? Was it like you didn't feel objectified? You didn't feel like it was like, especially as a man. I think it's very different as a man as opposed to getting as a woman getting nude on stage.
Yeah, and you know, and I'm kind of, I'm middle-aged now. I'm a lot fatter than what I have been over the course of my life, and my body doesn't. I don't think that it looks spectacular.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, I played Jesus a while ages ago,
Yeah, right.
and I had the Jesus kind of frame.
Right.
Because I smoked a lot of cigarettes and drank a lot.
Yeah. So you're quite insinuate. You were quite
Yes,
lean.
Yeah. And I had the total look of Jesus, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't during this thing.
Yeah.
It was almost like the audience is going, no, put the clothes back on. And the weird thing was that, the second season of this thing, he introduced all these beautiful young starlets too.
Oh, right.
So there were all these gorgeous women getting nude as well. And so it was really like, it was not necessary.
Yeah.
Anyhow. I shouldn't. They're not starlets. They're brilliant, amazing
Actresses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, creators really.
Oh, okay. So they make theatre as well.
Yeah.
These days the term is theatre maker.
Is it?
Yeah, because they kind of encapsulates like if you're a director or a writer or someone who does like self-devised work or.
Yeah, I know. And I probably put myself in that category.
Yeah. So more than a writer, or still primarily? Probably?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I think the thing is that I think that I am primarily a writer, even though, I think I am a theatre maker as well.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm primarily a writer, and because even when I don't, say when I lived it, so. Getting back to the story.
Yeah, do.
Which because it kind of answers all these questions.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah.
So I was writing. So I wrote this second play, Barcode 30 exclamation mark 7307.
Yeah.
After meeting all these I don't know, criminal characters or people who'd found themselves in weird, troubling situations, and and I shaved my head and I played the main role the first time I did it at the Carlton Courthouse in 2002, and then we kind of did a repeat season in 2003, and I got a mate to play it, and we changed it again, but that experience, which I've really lived in those kind of dark places and boarding houses and among some pretty scary individuals and I did things that were out of my comfort zone anyway.
Yeah.
Well and truly. And where it started though was as a because it tickled my fancy as an artist.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense.
And so it was funny because it's funny too with that play that eventually the actor who played me the second time round brought it back to that too.
Yeah, right.
Like he went, you know what I think, Scott?
Yeah.
I don't think this character's a skinhead or a nasty person.
Yeah,
I think he's an artist.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah.
And
So
I
you
went-
thought you were going kind of the easy way out in a way, or not, or just the more expected route, or.
I think like the way that the character was written, and maybe this is because it was my skill was a little bit more rudimentary than what it is maybe now.
Now, yeah.
But, the way that the character was written, it was a little bit of me, and it was a little bit of
The bruiser, kind of.
yeah. And so you could go either way.
Either way,
Yeah.
And maybe you chose the bruiser because
Yeah.
it was further away from you. Maybe?
Yeah, and because I thought that's what I was writing about.
Yeah.
But from that, when someone else approaches the script, they go, "Hang on, he's not really that skinhead. He's he's this other guy who's indulging that as a poetry form."
Yeah, interesting.
And it made for both ways really made for good viewing, I think.
Yeah, that would have been incredible.
Yeah.
Is there no like footage or?
There is actually.
Oh really?
I'll
we
get
should
it
watch that
to you.
together.
Yeah. I've got a DVD that I hold very preciously and dearly, made by this friend of mine, Beck Saar, who is this filmmaker.
Yeah,
and
cool.
now she's doing all the academic thing.
Yeah.
But she for that entire period, she used to follow me around with the camera.
Yeah,
which was
wow.
brilliant. And then she came to the play and filmed it. And a lot of the footage that she did of my flat and that has been lost and etc. But we have got this DVD of that play.
Because it almost sounds a bit like I never got to see it, but I saw like bits of it, and I've read it, and I've talked to people who did see it. Do you remember hearing about that amazing play work? It's quite old, but it's based on memoirs of a philosopher, and I can't remember his name, but that Geoffrey Rush did, Diary of a Madman.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds really similar to that kind of like that inspired, kind of really raw, really emotional kind of exploration of like that kind of view and of that character and like the kind of meta levels between where
the self ends and the other
and the character
yeah.
And do you feel like you've always been that way in terms of all the roles you've played? Do you feel like you have to have a sort of some special connection to, or
I don't know. When I was young, I was a real fresh-faced Shakespearean. Like I had a nice sounding
classical
voice
kind of.
Yeah. But I always had a bit of a big head and a strange look, so I'd always play the fool.
Oh, of course.
I always play the Shakespearean fool.
And they're often the best roles.
Yes.
The most like clever kind of going on behind the scenes.
And it's interesting because first role I ever did outside of school was Launcelot.
Oh wow.
The Merchant of Venice.
Yeah.
And,
I love the Merchant of Venice.
Yeah, and then I did, and then and this will take you to like where the direction of where my acting went. Then I did Fred from Scrooge.
Oh
Christmas Carol. So I was that type of. As a young guy, I was that kind of fresh faced.
I can see you being very at home in something Dickensian. Dickens type stuff. Yeah.
But
that would be cool.
Coffee's ready.
Oh, it's ready.
Awesome. Fantastic. Oh, do you want to stay there? Can you pour him something? Because we're going to continue the interview. Can you? Yeah. Sorry. Otherwise, we'll have to stop it, and I don't want to stop it. Sorry. Thank you, Nikai. I'm sorry.
I wish I still smoked cigarettes because he looks like he'd smoke cigarettes.
He does smoke cigarettes.
I'd give him a cigarette, but I can't.
That actually links in really well to what I'll talk about next, because when we were on set, this is an interesting story. I remember talking to you off camera, or like when we weren't filming, about like your sort of your drug past and your sort of drug history and stuff. And I remember it was really interesting. It was such a kind of moment of like, he clearly has come so far, because there was a moment where I was smoking, I think at one stage I'm not a smoker, and at one stage I was smoking tobacco cigarettes, and at another point I was smoking herbal cigarettes. And you had, like, for a few seconds, didn't you, had the herbal cigarette in your mouth, and then you were like, oh no, and you threw it out, and you threw it on the ground. And I found that really interesting. Like, that was such a kind of extreme kind of reaction. Like,
Thank you.
How has it been? Thank you very much, Nikai.
Thank you.
How hard has it been in terms of your shall we say, sort of drug use, how hard has it been in getting past that to the point that even a cigarette like that, a herbal cigarette, you couldn't do it?
It's really interesting because you know, and it answers. You know, I can answer this with a lot of information.
Oh,
but
good.
what it made me think about was there's a concept, a Lacanian concept.
Yeah, right.
Called jouissance.
Yeah, right.
which is like the French word for it's a French word for pleasure, but it's kind of an unconscious pleasure.
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, it's kind of an unconscious pleasure. It's something that gives you a sense of satisfaction that is almost sexual.
Yeah.
Or
Wow.
that has a metaphor.
A sort of sensual
that
quality.
kind of,
Right.
So, for example,
like food, for example,
you
can lust after food. You can lust after.
yeah, but more like,
Restaurant.
for example, like there's certain activities, and in my master's thesis, I talk about the jouissance of the needle.
Oh, right. Okay.
So,
wow.
so and the process of injection in Freudian language, you know, becomes like a metaphor for the satisfaction of the unconscious desire for the mother.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. So
wow.
intercourse
That's
with the parent.
incredible.
And so the jouissance of the cigarette.
Yeah. Where does it connect?
What's
the Freudian?
Well, we think that it's all about just nicotine.
Yeah.
You know? But what I learned on that occasion.
Yeah.
And I'm a very chemical. I believe in, you know, if you got a headache, you take a tablet and it goes away.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to give up smoking, you have nicotine gum.
Yeah.
Because then you don't
It'll
have to go through the
wean
pain
you
of
off
it.
Yeah.
And so when they said, you know, I smoke a cigarette, but we'll make it a herbal cigarette, I thought, oh yeah, well,
whatever.
You know, that's not going to hurt me.
Yeah.
But as soon as I kind of put that,
It's the memory, kind of muscle memory, or?
yeah, and it was like I went, I feel at home.
Oh, right, yeah. Almost like, it sounds like, it's a really weird analogy, but almost like the one part of Finding Nemo, I wasn't a huge fan of Finding Nemo, but the one part of Finding Nemo I found so beautifully adult and compelling was the part where the sharks are all having a meeting about how they don't eat fish, right? But they've gone off fish, and they're like, fish are friends, not food. And there's this beautiful bit where Dory gets cut, and a tiny little bit of blood goes into the like the head honcho shark's nose, and his pupils dilate, and he's like, that's cool.
Yeah,
you know, like it's that kind of feeling
Yeah.
where you just like, you like become your old self, or you become that particular creature,
Yes.
and like that kind of.
Yeah, it was like my hand, my fingers so easily put that object to my mouth. And my mouth just knew exactly what to do with it. And then my lungs went, here we go.
This has been a while.
That's easy. And
That's so funny. Like the hide, the gel becomes the hide kind of.
And so
interesting.
Where were we going with that?
So we said about the fact that it's amazing that that brought it all back for you, and because I think for someone who took, like, you know, without saying tokenistic, you took pretty much every drug under the sun, didn't you?
Yeah, yes I did, but I mean, I don't
periodically,
like to,
intermittently.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that
because there's a big difference between sort of hard drugs and recreational drugs.
Or
would you say there isn't? Like, you just say it's all kind
no,
of...
I'd say there is.
Yeah, there is.
I'd say there is, but I also say that the culture all belongs to one.
That's true.
Right? So if you can't buy pot without contributing
to the whole
to a
community.
junkie's
habit.
death.
Oh, right, okay.
Wow.
Really? There's a direct correlation to...
Well, to me, because it's like someone's, you know, to me, it's like a tree.
And
And at the top of the tree is the the most addicted person. This is in little, you know,
Yeah,
not
I know
not
what you
in
mean.
criminal.
Like a
you
sort
know,
of
like,
no, not a mafia hierarchy.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
But in the addict world.
Yeah.
So we're in the community that I kind of lived in.
Yeah.
Where there were people that would be going around having trips over here and smoking pot over there and having ecstasy over here.
Yeah.
And I was doing everything.
Yeah, right.
Because I like to inject, you know.
Yeah, right.
And so
and was it heroin? Was it ice? Like what sort of?
Well, I suppose it started as amphetamines. I started as, you know, smoking marijuana and I like taking acid, you know.
Yeah,
I took acid
I love
for the first
acid.
time.
Yeah.
I was about 19 and I loved it too.
Yeah. I think particularly creative people, you know, it's very us, I think, isn't it? 'Cause it unlocks that kind of, that, you know, like typical cliche Beatles and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like it's very,
do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't had it though? Like, because I've got a mate who
do you think you have it anyway? We have that potential anyway, and it's just lazy to kind of use it.
No, I don't think it's lazy. I don't think it's either way.
Yeah.
But I've just got a mate who does the most beautiful drawings, drawings and etchings and they're just amazing. And he'd swear that he'd taken acid.
Yeah, right.
But he's never ever touched anything.
He's never touched it. Yeah, interesting.
Anything.
That funny? Yeah.
Not even, you know. He's never had a puff on a.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is he just like that kind of person where he tries to be healthy and like look after himself?
Yeah. I mean, I think now because we're all 40, right?
Yeah.
I think he has the occasional glass of wine.
But
occasionally. You know, he's not he's not
an alcoholic.
No,
not even.
Or does he even smoke anything or anything like that? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. So in terms of that kind of thing, like what sort of drew you to that community, and then once you were in that community, how did you reconcile? Because I think there's also a distinction to be drawn between that you were, you know, a user, so to speak, and that sounds, I don't want to say user because it almost sounds quite negative, doesn't it? But like you use drugs, but then you were also a dealer, weren't you? Like how did you, like now looking back on it, how did you sort of reconcile?
Well, I suppose, and it does all combine together again. I started to support my play, to support the plays. I started selling my poetry on the side of the street. Which, you know, there's a radio documentary, The No Teeth People. It's all about that. And my most recent play is about me selling poetry on the street too.
You were a dealer of poetry as well.
Well, I was a dealer of poetry, and it was just like I always remember the day when I first became a drug dealer.
Yeah, right.
What happened was that I had a mate come up to me and say, "Oh, do you know where to get some pot, Scotty?"
Yeah.
If I was selling poetry, and I said, "Yeah, I do." And then I went to my dealer and I said, "Oh, could I have a gram?" I gave this bloke his thing, and then another person comes and said, "Do you know where to get some pot?" And I ran to my dealer and I got. And
so you're almost like the middleman, really.
And then you know, by the fourth time that I'd done that, my dealer said, "Oh look, Scotty, do you just want to take? There's 10.
Yeah.
You know, sell them and come back to me. And then that started to become
some of
part
your income.
of my well, and it mainly just supported my own habit.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, interesting.
Right. And then strangely enough, and I can tell you in intricate detail how the addiction all kind of unfolded. Then the same fellow, I'd go around there and he'd say, "Oh, do you want a cup of coffee? Like, do you want?" And someone wanted some speed. One of my other friends wanted some speed, and I said, "Oh, bro, do you know where to get some speed?" And he said, "Are you joking?" Yeah. And he had a heap of speed, and and he said, "Oh, you know, I'll give you some in your coffee." And then I started to drink speed in my coffee all the time.
Oh right. That's an expensive coffee.
Yeah, but it was free for me because I was, you know,
friend.
And then
did you find speed helped like you be more productive in terms of artistically?
No, look, I really I've got to say that.
That's a bit of a cliche.
No, well, I experimented with all these things. And I can't say what my life would be like, you know, in regard to what our conversation was before. I can't say what my life would be like if I hadn't done it.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish I hadn't, because I don't think that it's been very good for. In the end, I don't think it's been good for either my creative or academic.
There you go. So you think the whole thing's almost like a deception of, like, to yourself, in the sense of like you think you could have had the same, not the same path, but like just as academic and just as artistic path, you could have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think some drug users would not say that.
No, I mean, I think that I think that, you know, I think that it's quite, in a way, it's quite separate, because I've always written, no matter what. Like the whole time in Sydney, while I was just injecting all the time, I was still writing in between. I don't know how. It's
I
had another hand.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
You know, so I think, I don't think.
Because you look at people like we were talking about earlier, one of your heroes, William Burroughs, and even Ginsberg to some degree, Hunter S. Thompson certainly. A lot of those
Hunter
writers.
S. Thompson's probably one of my heroes.
Yeah.
Not so much Burroughs. I
Not
think
so much
Burroughs is a bit of a. I don't know. I mean, he's a
bit
good
more
writer.
kind of ego. Or,
He's a good writer, but he's very pretentious, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I can see what you mean. Yeah.
I did like Junkie.
Junkie's a good.
And I think it's an exceptional kind of study of intravenous drug use.
Yeah. And it's so, his language is so visceral, isn't it? It's so incredibly like dark
so
and
real
honest and
But then, you know, I mean, so is Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, true.
You know, throughout his writing. Which I mean,
he's his own worst critic, isn't he?
Well, yeah, and he's a freak.
Yeah.
He lived so long, and you know, he was such a bad man.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
And, you know,
What about Bukowski? Do you like Bukowski?
Yeah.
Have you read any Bukowski?
Yeah. I mean, not a lot.
Yeah, not a lot.
And he died young, anyhow.
Yeah,
so he probably hasn't got a lot to read.
No, he hasn't. No.
Yeah,
he wrote a surprising amount, considering he didn't live that long. But yeah. So oh god, we're talking about so much. It's really good. It's really good. We've covered lots of things.
I think.
You were going to go back to a story?
I guess. Well, I don't know.
Go.
I think we were at the second barcode.
That's right, the second barcode.
So, and then what happened after that was that I was crashing on this couch. I started to just I started to have nowhere to live.
Yeah, become a bit of a vagabond.
Yeah, but it wasn't so bad. I mean, most of where I lived during that era of my life were places like this. So I'd come around and I'd be just telling everyone drugs.
Yeah.
And then we'd just end up hanging out and have another UDL and another UDL, and then I'd just be on your couch and 3 days later you'd say, "Oh,
you're still in?" Yeah.
And I'd say, "Oh, could you want to have a shower?" And you'd say, "Oh, yeah, no worries," and then send me on my way, and I'd go out selling poetry and someone else. Especially in Geelong, there was a lovely little community of people that would say, "Oh, where are you sleeping tonight, Scotty? Come and stay at our place."
Oh, that's wicked.
Yeah, it was, and it started to have kind of 7 homes, one for each night.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It was, and
that's very much a beat lifestyle, isn't it?
It was, it was, and and it was kind of in Geelong, even though as much as all us old Geelong people pick on it, like I actually wouldn't call myself a Geelong person. I wasn't born in Geelong. I spent a bit of time there, but for all of the criticism of it, it was quite a supportive environment. To kind of for a person for square peg in a round hole type thing.
Surprisingly so. At least within your community, it was
surprisingly, yeah.
Have you found Melbourne to be like? How long have you been in Melbourne? When did you move?
Oh, then what happened, I suppose, is that then I was in Geelong and my friend who I was staying in her one of her kids' old rooms, right? So she had a spare room out the back, and she's a Scottish lady. I won't say her name, but she said, "Well, Sporty Welsh, you're getting under my skin."
Yeah, right.
How long are you going to be here for? How long have you? Why don't you go to Sydney? Go to Sydney, Scotty. I've got a friend in Sydney. You can go to Sydney. You can stay there. My friend keeps saying, "When's Scotty Welsh going to come up?" So I went and I stayed with this bloke and his family in Redfern.
Wow, that's pretty hardcore.
But it wasn't hardcore.
It wasn't.
This guy was. It was the new Redfern. If you imagine,
okay.
if you imagine like the new Footscray. Like,
yeah.
This guy,
gentrified.
well, he was I think a tradesman of some kind.
Yeah,
with a wife and 4 kids, and just and he just wanted a place that he could buy a cheap house.
You weren't moving into like a den or anything.
He owned this house. No, but eventually that happens.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah, right.
And I hung there for a little while, but again, it was kind of like I wasn't really suitable for family environment.
No,
Because I was
your
always
mind went to
off
wandering.
my face, and so I kind of I didn't really dig that scene, and so I just moved on. And so now I'm in Sydney. And it's the perfect storm.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, it's
so many temptations.
I've done a little bit of dabbling. And it's like you can see that the story is about to unfold with terrible and horrible
ramifications.
So then I moved to Sydney, and then I was just hanging everywhere. And my mate had told me Newtown's a place for you, Scotty. And,
I love Newtown.
And in the play I quote myself saying, when I got to Newtown, I finally felt like it was okay for me to be me. I was like, wow, there's actually a place where the conservatives are the dickheads and the radicals are the status quo.
That's pretty amazing.
And so I started selling my poetry, and I became the local poet there.
Wow.
So I was a local poet in Geelong.
So you've had many communities where you've been known as that.
Wow. And then this printer came down one day and he said to me, you want to come and I make some publication for you. And he was this he was the same guy that prints the Green Left Weekly and all those kind of stuff.
Oh wow,
He's got this big factory in Sydney, and so then I started to make a poetry newspaper called the Outcast Weekly Poet.
Oh, cool.
I
see where this is going now.
I collected all different friends' poems and we put them in there with headlines.
Wow, that's
me and my mate would sit there and just think up headlines. You would have loved it actually.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
I love that idea.
So it's like Delta's sex poem to Mark. White's riot for 200 years. But then, and then in between, people would submit their poetry. And we'd make I don't know, this one bloke, he wrote a poem about a peacock on the road, and my other mate said, I don't know, road trauma goes up,
That's cool.
And so, and then we had, sections of it that were the stars, and there were all kinds of, and they sold really quickly.
Yeah, wow. Like how, all over Australia, or where did you?
Well, I sold them in Newtown, but then I'd come back to Melbourne, and I'd keep on going and visiting. If you can imagine, in between times, it was like, especially when I was so-called homeless. I had a few friends in Sydney eventually. Who I'd hang and stay with. And then I come to Melbourne and Geelong, and I had a few friends in Geelong, and then I had a few friends in Melbourne, and it was like no one noticed that I was.
Cheeky.
But I actually had nowhere to live.
You go back home now?
I was going living at your place.
That's great. I love it.
But it was good because I owed them money too, because these things they sold really. I sold them for $2 each, right? I'd just stand on the side of the street and say, people would walk past and I'd say, it's like a newspaper made out of poetry.
That's great.
And they go, really?
They'd be so intrigued.
Full of headline, Delta's sex poem to Mark. White's riot for 200 years.
That's great.
And I sold them they sold really, really well. But and I made 5 or 6 editions of those, and it kind of entrenched me in Newtown too.
Of course.
But also at the same time, my drug use was becoming more and more. And there was, I think it was only a few months into being in Newtown, probably longer actually. It was a couple of years, because I always remember it was at my flat, which was above an Indian fashion shop in King Street. And I remember I was there with these two mates, and they said they're dividing up this bit of ice.
Oh yeah.
And they said oh, this much here and that much, and Scotty's going to have to do that much because he smokes it or snorts it or whatever. And the bloke said, what? Huh? I said, yeah, well, he doesn't use needles. And he said, well, why not? And he said, because the Scotty, he doesn't do that. He's, a virgin.
Yeah.
No. That's mine. That's yours. That's his. I'll shoot him up.
Right. So you hadn't used a needle up until that point.
No.
And did you really feel like that was a big step?
Yes.
Yeah.
And anyway, this bloke then went, and I thought, I saw the blood, and
Yeah, you watched.
and all that. And I just thought, that's a good trick.
I should laugh. Yeah, right. Wow.
And then I spent the next.
You're hearing Heroin by the Velvet Underground in your, that kind of like beautiful.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding,
Yeah. Well, it's just the blood. I was just fascinated by it.
Yeah,
I was
wow.
fascinated by this little instrument that did that.
Yeah.
And anyway, then I continued to shoot up.
Yourself.
Myself, yeah.
Yourself.
Just trying to get it right, which is,
Like an art form.
And I'm very uncoordinated, Like I had friends that would watch me do it, and they go, "Oh, Scotty, let me," but I'm like, "No,"
Yeah.
But I had this weird sexual thing about it,
Yeah,
It was
of course. Yeah.
And so yeah, and then I was just thoroughly obsessed.
Yeah. Wow.
Thoroughly obsessed, like more so than any of my friends. Any of them,
Yeah.
I always had drawers. Every drawer in my house by the time, 5 years later,
Yeah.
my mother came to rescue me from this joint, and there were needles everywhere, and then she'd open a drawer and there'd be just full of needles, used needles. Open another drawer full of needles.
Jesus. And when you're in that, you were never kind of conscious of it, until you kind of came out of it.
No, but it was funny because what happened was that I went to stay with my mum, in one of those round trips.
Yeah.
And I kind of withdrew while I was at my mum's house.
Yeah.
I just sat in her lounge room drinking red wine and watching.
Hermited.
Watching the flat screen TV.
So it would have been in a way a detoxing thing?
Yeah, without even realising it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I kind of...
Out of sight.
And it was because I'd run away from this bloke who was chasing me with a hammer.
Yeah,
Sydney,
right.
Like, it's a crazy ice world.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of... I developed a lot of really kind of... Because I was so open, and I didn't conceal it at all, and I was selling my poetry, so I was prominent.
People would have had a bit of a problem with that.
I got busted quite a few times by the cops, and the last time I got busted, it was like I got busted with 37 plants in my backyard, dope plants, and then a whole lot of material there, and I had to go to court and argue and all that, and it looked like I was going to go to jail.
Was that kind of a bit of a wake-up call? Or?
Well, it should have been, but not really.
Right.
As soon as I got out of court,
you were like, "Fucking got away with that."
Turn my phone back on. I didn't even think like that. I just kind of thought, you just think. You just don't know any other way. That's the thing. But I think that this physical threat. This bloke moved in downstairs and he was psychotic. He threatened me with a hammer. And I started to think, I started to plan to kill him. Because I was crazy. Right?
Wow. Yeah. Right.
And then I just thought to myself, hang on. What am I doing?
Right. The insight.
It was like, anything is better than that. Why don't I just walk away?
Wow.
What have I got?
Yeah.
And so I picked up. I had a Zimmerman, my black cat. And I picked her up and just walked out of there, and just left everything.
Wow.
And then
pretty much overnight, like.
Then I went to the train station and I rang my mum, and she was not very happy.
Understandable.
But then I came to Melbourne and and I detoxed completely. But I was away from the whole. You know, I didn't know
Community.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the whole time I was in Sydney, I kind of I did a lot of acting in films and stuff. You know?
Oh right, cool.
Which that happens in Sydney. Like,
Yeah.
as you probably know.
It's a very film
Yeah,
TV place.
yeah. If you go there and you're a bit of an artistic person, someone
Yeah.
goes, oh, you know, you should get, and this agent's looking for people. And, you know, it's like Hollywood.
Yeah.
In a
Hollywood
little
Australia.
way, you know, in our kind of world.
Yeah.
You know, whereas then you come to Melbourne and there's nothing.
Yeah. Melbourne's like kind of, I don't know, Berlin or something. Like,
There's lots of artistic activity,
Yeah.
but there's not that kind of, you know, way of
Kind
making
of-
money straight away. So then I came back here, which I don't know, where were we going? Like,
Well, just like, because that's an amazing thing, I think, to be so entrenched and so deep in that community, and then to have the kind of self-determination and or self-realization that you're just like, this is not what I want to do anymore, and you completely cut ties and left.
The other thing I suppose, which I didn't kind of touch on. I mean, you know, to me now recollecting, it's like I can't believe that the memories that I've got. I can't believe that it's me. I can't believe that.
Yeah, right. Almost like you're watching back on a film or something of a character,
and like and the most poignant one that I just remembered then was crying about my daughter. You know, like and while I'm trying to inject, and thinking to myself, I don't want to be doing this every step of the way, right? And it's such a minute kind of process that to think you don't want to be doing it and to get a spoon out and then just tip some smack and some speed and some ice and some.
Whatever it is.
I used to just mix everything up, right?
Wow, like
and
a
then put
cocktail.
Then there's crushed up ecstasy.
Which is even more dangerous,
acid.
isn't it?
Like,
way more
It's
dangerous.
like you're trying to kill yourself. Which is what I was kind of trying to do, I think.
Yeah, right.
I was like, well, I didn't care. I knew. I knew how risky
You were
it
that
was.
self-destructive.
And
wow.
and then just to sit there and think, I don't want to be doing this while you're trying to get it into the vein and get the blood, you know. It's like, and to think I don't want to be doing that every step of the way, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. It's like that. There's a quote, isn't there? The mark of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result.
A different.
Different result. Yeah.
But it's it's even worse than that in a way, because it's like
Did you find it cathartic?
it's like sleepwalking or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or wetting the bed as a little kid. It's like I don't want to wet the bed. You know, I promise I won't wet the bed tonight. I promise I won't. You know, you go you wet the bed. You know, which I mean, I wasn't a bedwetter as a kid, but but I can see that parallel is quite remarkable. You know, I think.
So in terms of you, coming out of that world and coming back to Melbourne and detoxifying and everything, what I'd really like to ask you is, what do you think, because surely you probably still have friends who were, drug users or are drug users and that kind of thing, or maybe you don't have friends that are drug users because you might have cut ties completely from that sort of thing, understandably. But what do you think about this idea of like once a junkie, always a junkie? Because you're living proof that that's not true, really, aren't you? To be someone who is so...
but it's... Well, I think the ones that will, but who are you, like, what do you mean?
Well,
once a junkie, always a junkie?
Well, I just mean some people...
Alcoholics Anonymous or...
well, I just mean that some people believe that, that you never get to a point where you are, where you can just not take any drug and kind of go completely, other than say coffee, and go completely kind of...
Yeah. I know, but I'm also crazy, you know what I mean? And I'll also...
so that's as your greatest asset.
I'm obsessed.
You're obsessed.
Even with this most recent play, I'm so obsessed that I'm almost. It's like I'm trying to destroy everything. I'm so obsessed with it, you know. And that is the same as what I was like.
Oh, okay. So you feel like you're just substituting it with the different.
Well, I think it's.
But surely you're a lot better off without that
Sure,
lifestyle.
yeah, sure. But well, yes and no, because maybe maybe to some degree, the hell that is going on in my head even right now as we speak, is medicated by using.
Do you
it's
think
like,
it is, or do you think that's just an illusion?
I don't know, but I do think that like Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous or those kind of programs, they do tend to deal with that aspect, and deliberately try to deal with that aspect, which those of us who have gone outside of that domain, we're also trying to deal with it, but probably not as successfully. But I just keep on thinking that, I just keep on. It's actually probably a timely reminder for me of how bad things can be, because I'd much rather have the problems that I've got now.
Yeah, than the ones you did have.
Yeah. And even though like day to day, my existence can feel difficult, because it's like.
Because do you have, just like on a really personal note, because I have bipolar,
right,
and sort of mild anxiety and depression and a few different things, and I'd say some of that is probably down to genetics, and a lot of it is down to my upbringing and stuff. But what I was going to say with you is, do you have any kind of like conditions or things that would have symptoms of those kind of conditions? Like, do you feel like there's something in you already that's like that makes you feel that way?
Possibly, but I mean,
without being too clinical necessarily. I'm not saying you have to give it a label or anything, but is that parts of you that you feel like
except that I think for myself, and I do identify strongly with other bipolar people. I seem to have a connection. Yeah. Even you and me.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've had that with lots of. I had an old girlfriend of mine was bipolar, and
have you ever been like tested or crossings out?
And I did get prescribed lithium, but I only took it for a very small amount of time. And then decided, no, I don't want it.
So did you ever get any kind of diagnosis or anything? Or?
Well, I did.
Yeah, you did get diagnosed.
But I kind of just walked away from it. I didn't pursue it any further. And then
I'm the same, but for me it did give me a lot of clarity. Like for me it's a label these days, but it's just something to say. Well, that's because it's such a big part of who we are. Like once upon a time there wasn't a label for it, and you were just eccentric, or you were just an oddball, or you were just different.
But then the addiction eclipsed it for me. And
right.
I mean, to me it's immaterial. Whether I'm bipolar. It's like. Except I suppose to.
But surely there are times where, for example, you're so uncontrollably sad, or angry, or frustrated, or something in a way that you can't necessarily rationally justify. Like nothing bad particularly has happened, even though things have happened bad in your life. But surely there are times where, you just get so
your
sad.
Your emotions get out of control.
Yeah. And I know that's true of everyone, but I think with bipolar people, it's on a much more extreme, deeper somehow.
Is it?
Level. Or do you think it's the same with everyone?
But I mean, or could you replace the word bipolar with artistic? Or? No, true. Yeah. I mean, the
artistic condition.
Which I think it has been known as that too.
That's true. Well, it's like similar. It's a similar thing to say that gay people historically were seen as artists or deviants. People didn't necessarily say that they were gay out now. It was just sort of like they were different. They were, Oscar Wilde's a classic example. People of that kind of time. It was never really talked about, but it was kind of presumed that there was something a bit different about them.
Well, it was.
And even someone like Einstein,
that was considered a mental illness that they try and find cures for.
Exactly.
And like, supposing we said bipolar was the same kind of thing. It's actually, this is only anecdotally that I produced this knowledge, but my friend told me about this psychiatrist from America, who has bipolar, chooses not to treat it,
not to take medication,
and they'll occasionally go to work and he'll be up a tree.
That's fantastic. That's great. I think that's the way to be.
With a pink hat on, And I was like,
I think one of the reasons I know, as well as because for the longest time I was sort of in denial, or I refused to kind of believe or accept or even
Yeah.
like I didn't think about it. It's not something you think about that I had bipolar or whatever. But there is a history of it in my family, and then it wasn't until a friend of mine who I lived with dragged me at the time, kicking and screaming, literally, to the psychiatrist to be diagnosed because I was going through a thing called rapid cycling, which is a thing where it varies from person to person, but I was in extreme emotional states about 20 minutes to half an hour increments over 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
So it's really intense, angry for 20 minutes and then upset for 20 minutes and then numb, fucking just dead, nothing for 20 minutes and then that.
Yeah, I identify
crazy
pretty
stuff.
strongly with that.
With that, yeah, right. That's interesting.
I do identify very strongly with that.
Yeah. And what I was about to say was the two people in my whole life who I've never related to more on every level, everything they stood for, everything they did, and just the way they saw the world. Because I think I was going to say before about writing. For me, writing's not just about the physical act of writing. I think it is about who you are as a person.
Yeah.
It's that on the outside looking in thing, which we have both talked about. But the two people in my whole life I've always identified with, and they're probably my biggest hero and my biggest idol. Biggest hero ever is definitely Van Gogh, who had bipolar. And my biggest idol in the world is Stephen Fry, who has bipolar. And everything I've read, pretty much everything they've both written.
Yeah.
And well, not all of Van Gogh's letters, because there are thousands. But I've read the the publication things of his letters that he wrote to his brother Theo.
Yeah.
And it's like reading my own thoughts,
Yeah,
and that I think is amazing, considering he was over 150.
Well, it's funny with what you're talking about too, because I always there was this moment when I was still in Geelong, so years and years ago, 15 years ago. And I was at this friend's barbecue, and I was having this conversation with all these about 6 people, and I was like, wow, I've never felt such a part of this. Of this
World.
energy, this beautiful energy. This is amazing. I just feel like we are all one. And they said we're a bipolar support.
Really? That's amazing. That's great. Oh, that's fantastic. Because I often want to go to those things because I have a couple of friends in Melbourne here who are bipolar, and I think, well, I can't find a lot of them. Weirdly, a lot of them in Melbourne are just female groups, which I think is a bit fucked, to be honest. A little bit sexist. I can understand them needing to have that kind of specific thing, but as far as I've looked into it, there aren't many support groups that are what's the word, co-op.
No, but are there all male ones or?
I don't know. I don't think so. It seems like that kind of thing where there wouldn't be because it's we don't talk about it.
But I suppose that when you're in a heightened state,
the manic kind of.
Well, and it can, especially I think particularly for women, they tend to have. Without wanting to make assumptions, from what I understand, they tend to have regrettable sexual encounters.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or any kind of regrettable situations.
But say for that reason, it would make sense for them to want to have an all-female, support group.
And even just the fact of how
because otherwise,
with their hormones.
Maybe. You want to be careful, you don't want to say anything.
That's right. But what I was thinking was, now that I have this beautiful kind of hub, house, why don't I start my own one?
Yeah.
Why don't I start my own bipolar support group? It's a perfect kind of,
couple of couches there.
And we can have poetry readings, and we could have, that'd be cool. Because I wanted to start a writers collective anyway, and I was like, why don't I just call it bipolar? And then we can have people who
but does that mean that even people without bipolar can come? Because what if you're in denial?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
What about me? I feel like I should be allowed at this bipolar spot, but I'm not admitting that I'm bipolar.
Yeah, right. You're tiptoeing on the edge. It's like putting your toe in the ocean.
Well, it's the same with alcoholism. And I don't admit that I'm an alcoholic, but I haven't had a drink for over 3 years, I think.
Yeah, right.
And I don't plan to ever drink again.
So when you were going through the drug stuff, did you drink a lot? Was alcohol much a part of it?
But it didn't so much become a problem for me until I stopped taking drugs.
And then, because you sort of fell back on the alcohol.
I went to live with my mum, going back to that part of the story. And she basically said, Scotty, there's a house full of alcohol.
Yeah, drink whatever you want. Yeah.
Help yourself, you know.
Yeah.
And
At least you're at home and she can look
Well,
after
and you know, and I was coming off heroin and stuff, you know, and so I was pretty sick. And so I just sit there and, you know, morning, noon and night, just drink red wine, you know, nice red wine too, because it was at my mum's place. Well, relatively nice.
Yeah.
And then though, I got addicted to that, you know, and the last drinking bout that I had, I was drinking 5 cheap bottles of red a day.
Wow.
Right? And then I stopped for a while because I played Jesus.
Yeah.
And I wanted those.
Turning
I wanted the
water
eyes. No, I wanted the eyes. You know, I wanted
right.
those shining eyes.
Mm.
And so I stopped drinking. And then when I finished that role, I started again. And when I started, I said, if I can drink moderately, then I'll drink forever.
But you couldn't.
Well, and the next time that I kind of even thought about it was when I was at this New Year's Eve party at my friend's place in Jan Juck, and so I had to supply myself with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So there wasn't going to be a bottle shop open,
No.
so I had to estimate how much I'd drink.
Yeah.
So I went to the bottle shop and I bought 4 bottles of red wine and a dozen stubbies, and I drank all of that.
Wow.
And people were saying it's amazing you're not even drunk. Scott.
Yeah.
You know. And then my friend kind of said to me, "Oh, this is a bit of a problem, you know." Because I had to do this work in schools. And she was saying, like, you know, you're going to be
drunk.
and so that kind of was my wake up call, I suppose, and I stopped that then.
Well, we've talked about so much, but I should sort of wrap it up. Do you want to talk about what you're doing next? This project.
Yeah. So since I've been back in Melbourne, I've done I've done the biography of a battler, which is a play about the mental health system.
Yeah.
And then,
that would have been wicked.
Dr. Blonde, which is a play about my cousin's relationship with her blonde hair. And now, and then most recently, I think that's the order of it. Most recently, I'm doing this play called The Outcast Weekly Poets Stage Show, which is all about, which I've touched on today, about that era of my life, selling my poetry on the street, and so it's just kind of about all the different characters that I encountered, or seeing the world about how about being an outcast. You know. In this society.
That's cool. And does it touch on your PhD as well? Because you're doing a PhD at the moment. Like, does it link into?
Well, I suppose my PhD is about labels in education. And I'm writing a play about labelling in education. And it's based on a data collection that I did at a school. So in that sense, it's not really related, except that the playwriting practice is what I kind of workshopped with the kids. Right?
So it serves it in a way.
So it's got an indirect relationship with that part of the work, you know.
That's really cool. And are you excited about your show? It's at La Mama, at the Carlton Courthouse?
No, at La Mama. The Little La Mama Theatre.
The Little La Mama Theatre.
Which is in Faraday Street.
Faraday Street,
Don't go to the wrong one.
Don't go to the wrong one, I always get confused,
No, make sure you
That's cool.
head along to the Outcast Weekly Poets Stage Show, and it's directed by my good friend Kerry Davies, and it features my daughter's mum. Plays guitar and piano accordion in it, and my daughter's mum's sister drew all the pictures that are that are then projected. So it's like
is it a one-man show or?
It's kind of, but it's kind of, except that
there's other actors.
Well, no, there's a dancer, right?
Okay.
So my other friend, who's this Iranian dancer, Alnaz Sheshkalani.
Wow.
She's quite well known and.
God, I'd love to interview her.
Brilliant. Yes. You should, and I'll put you in touch with her. She she does like this. She does these dance movements, mime, I suppose,
Wow.
to my monologue.
Oh, yeah.
And then
like a physicalisation of what's happening.
Yeah, and then my ex at different times plays Zenta.
So you're still good friends?
Guitar and piano accordion. yeah, we are.
Sort of. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, no, we are good friends. Well, you got to be when you. I think you've got to be when you. The thing is, Sean, and you might work this out one day. You know, if you have kids.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, once you have kids, and you don't realise it. Well, I didn't realise it at the time, but because we had kids, because we had a daughter, it's like you're bound to that person forever.
Yeah, right.
Regardless of whether you like them or not.
Yeah.
So you
have a responsibility.
And you have to, if you don't want to drive yourself mad, you have to learn to get along.
Yeah, of course.
And it's
just
weird
gonna be like
because
hitting
you
your head
think-
against a brick wall.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and which is exactly what it's like. When you leave, you think when you leave, you think I'm leaving
I'm
because
never gonna
I can't get along with you. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And then you leave, and the thing when you've got kids, you have to get along.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to go through that process.
Because that's
of
the
learning.
higher cause than like not just you. The fact
Well, other people, other relationships, you can walk away and say, oh, that was fucked.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to go back there. And then I'll never see that person again. And And you never have to deal with that part of yourself again.
Yeah,
Whereas
of course. Yeah.
a person who you've had a kid with, who you've got to keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
good
so we
too.
have come to a good place, I suppose.
Oh, that's really good. Well, I can't wait to see it. So it's what's the name again? Just for
The Outcast Weekly Poet.
The
And
Outcast Weekly
cast is spelled C-A-S-T-E,
okay.
like the Indian caste system.
Yeah, right. Cool.
So it's the Outcast Weekly Poet, and Weekly W-E-A-K-L-Y
Yeah.
Poet. And it's at La Mama from the August 16th. August.
Later than that.
Yes.
The end of August.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's August
24th?
27th.
Oh,
27th. It's August 27th
Yeah.
to 31st.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's at 6:30 on the Friday night, and then 7:30 the other
The
nights.
other nights. Yeah. You've got so much to remember.
Yeah, and then it's
How long is it?
And then it's on at the Imperial Hotel in Sydney.
Oh wow. Are you doing it up there too?
Yeah, in the last week of September.
Yeah, cool.
As a part
I might
of
even
the
try and go
Sydney
up and see
Fringe.
it for that. 'cause,
Yeah.
my sister lives in Sydney, so I'd love to.
Yeah, it's up there at the Imperial Hotel. So the idea is that it kind of follows the path.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that. Will you
yeah.
do it in Geelong as well, or?
Well, there is that we haven't confirmed this yet, but
Yeah.
we when I say we haven't confirmed it, it's my a kind of a family member, so my someone who's kind of vaguely related in a way, like related to my daughter, I suppose, has an art gallery just outside Geelong in Batesford,
Oh right, yeah.
and he's very keen
Yeah, cool.
for us to
That'd be
do the show there.
Yeah.
And that but it might not be till early next year or something, you know.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But we certainly are planning to do that. You know.
Yeah, cool.
It's got Bob Dylan songs and, well, you know, bastardisations of Bob Dylan songs.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I love Bob
You know,
Dylan.
you're a Bob Dylan fan?
I am.
I'm a massive Bob Dylan fan.
I love him,
I love him.
My favourite songs are like A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall.
Okay.
I love like that kind of It's Alright Ma, I'm Only Bleeding. Like I love they're my favourite. The ones that are for me are really like poetic. I really love his.
Have you listened to his latest stuff or?
I haven't listened to much of it, no, like new tunes or whatever that one was called, New Blues or something. Yeah, I haven't listened to it much.
Yeah.
Should I? Is it good?
Yeah. I mean, his whole catalogue is
amazing.
brilliant.
Yeah, I think I would have heard just about every album of his from, because I have the discography, so I would have heard every album from his like original time up until like the 70s or something.
Yeah. But even then, you know, I even love his Christian stuff. But I mean, you know, a lot of people, you're not meant to say that.
Yeah, that's right. And on that note, thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you,
It's been
Sean.
amazing having you on. And we could talk about for days, couldn't we?
Yeah, we
about
could.
so many different things.
I'm sorry if I've raved on to
No, it's good, because I think we've
Well, that was Scott Welsh, and it's a little bit dark, but I hope the lighting's still not too bad. But yeah, so obviously I will link in the description to Scott's Facebook event, as well as all the information and stuff like that, maybe the Lamama website and things like that. Do you also have like a Facebook page or anything like that?
Yes, yeah, we do.
You do? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and we've got a I think we've got a public figure page for
Sweet.
the Outcast Weekly
Yeah, cool.
and plus an events page
Awesome.
for both of the Sydney and Melbourne.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Alright, well yeah, obviously I'll link all that in the description, and I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. He's a very, very wise man here. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you.